Angie Bee and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to be teaching you guys how to make a wig. The exact one I'm wearing on my head right now. So if you're interested, then make sure you tune in. Okay, so getting straight into the video, before we get into all the technical stuff, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you are new and this is your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Angelica, aka Angie Bee. If you like this channel so far, if you're browsing, you see some interesting things and you'd like to see more of it, make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell icon. Everything will be linked right down there, and the best part is it is free. The only thing you're going to get out of subscribing is making sure that every time I post a video, you're going to know that there's a video up. Also, if you're interested in seeing me on my social medias where I post everything just going on in my regular daily life, then make sure you go ahead and check that. I will link them. I'll put their names here. It is Angie Bee with 3 underscores, and they will also be in the description box below. So make sure to check that out, because apart from finding those links, you'll find every single thing I use listed in the description box below. So make sure you go and check that out. Without further ado, let's get into this hair. And if you guys would like any other videos, please suggest them in the comment section below. If you'd like to see how I colored this hair, it was black before, then please give this video a thumbs up and comment in the section below that you'd like to see that, because I did film it. So if you guys want to see it, I will post it. Also, okay, getting straight into the video. This is the wig cap I'm using and the closure I'm using. As you can see, I'm just showing you what it looks like. I already sort of bleached the knots when I dyed this hair. And now I'm just lining up the closure with the wig head, and I'm making sure it's straight. One thing I learned by filming this video is that you don't need to follow the lines exactly that are on the wig cap, because sometimes they're kind of sewn like bent. So just make sure you're looking at the mannequin head and make sure that it's nice and straight. So I put it on, and you guys can see I flipped it over to make sure it was straight. And then you want to pull it and stretch it to make sure that it's laying completely flat, like it's sewn on. And I'm using those T-pins I showed at the beginning just to hold everything nice and tight. And I pin this at 4 corners. If you want, you can do one in the middle at the back, but this is how I do mine. And I just showed you how flat it looks. It literally looks like it was sewn on, so you guys can see that. Then you just want to get the hair from the closure. You can put it in a bun or whatever you want. Just clip it away so that it's not in the way while you're sewing. And now we're going to move on to the sewing part, and I'm going to show you how I sew. So I use this big curved needle. You can use a straight needle as well, but it's easier with a curved one. Then I'm using a pair of scissors and this black cotton. Just use whatever cotton feels comfortable for you, but make sure it's one that doesn't constantly snap or tangle. So here I'm starting right at the base. And you see when I start on the other side, I start from the back, but it doesn't matter which side you start from, as long as your cotton and the way you're sewing is nice and flat. So I forgot to tie the end of the cotton there, so I'm just showing you. I tie it twice, and then I just cut off the little excess piece just to make sure that the knot is hard enough. And then I sew through the closure and only through the first layer of fabric, as you can see now as I'm putting the needle through, and I kind of loop it to make a nice sort of knot. It's easier to just watch than listen to my explanation, but I sew this twice before I start sewing across or along the closure to make sure that it's nice and secure. And I do this, and now I'm just sort of speeding it up. And you want to make sure that when you're sewing the closure down, you sew everything very tightly, not tightly, very closely together, because you want it to be as flat as possible. And I just zoomed you guys in here so you could see exactly what I was doing, what I'm talking about. So you want to make sure it's very nice and close together. This just gives the best result that I find for the closure. And I just sewed all the way to the back, and then I sewed the other side. So as you can see, the same way I start is how I end the closure. I sew like a double weft in the same spot just to make sure that it's secure. So I sewed the other side exactly how I sewed the first side. I didn't want to just show you everything and bore you with me doing the exact same thing, but I did this on both sides. And then once I'm done with this side, I move on to the back, and I sew the little back section, and you guys will see how nice and flat it is. So as you guys can see, when I reach the front, I double weft it again, and then I cut the cotton, tie it down twice, and then cut the excess off with the scissors right low, because you don't want any pieces of cotton like hanging in the hair. That's just nasty. Okay, so now as I explained, I'm sewing the back part, and I know it's a little bit difficult for you guys to see, but I was trying my best to position the camera and the wig head and how I was sewing in the best place for you guys to be able to see what I was doing while still doing it properly. Unfortunately, even after trying to ensure all this, I still realized that it was kind of sewn on a little bit bent. So when we come back, I actually undid the whole thing and re-sewed it because I didn't line it up properly because of how I angled it on the camera. So just make sure you do exactly what I did, but line it up properly. Here, this is the part I was showing you how it was kind of bent. You can see from the wig cap the way it is, and it's a little bit loose. So I just went ahead and redid that, and this is how I redid it. You can see it basically looks exactly the same. It's just lined up a little better. Okay, so now we're sewing on the tracks. As you guys can see, I'm not starting right at the bottom of the wig cap, but I'm starting like in the middle of the stretchy part of the wig cap. And I'm using these T-pins again to secure the track the way I want to sew it. I will not be cutting the wefts until I reach the front. So as I'll be sewing, I'm just putting the T-pins, and it was a little dark here, but what I do is I sew through the cap first when I'm doing when I'm sewing down the wig, as you can see, and then after it's secure, I start going through the track just so that it's nice and secure, like even before I start. So when I start the track, I double weft it again, make it nice and tight, and then I start sewing through the wig. But as you can see, now I'm not sewing through the track, I'm just sewing around the track. You can see it as I'm doing it. And again, I'm not going completely through the mesh of the cap because that's going to prevent your wig cap from stretching because you're going to sew through it. So you just want to sew through the first layer just like how you're going to sew through the rest of the cap because there's elastic in there, and sewing through it is just going to stop the elastic from stretching. So I'm basically going to be doing this exact same thing all around the head. As you guys can see, I've sped this up because nobody wants to see anyone sewing really slowly. And I'm going to explain just up to the end of this, and then I'll just play some music for you guys so you guys can see when I reach the end of the track where I've stopped it with a T-pin, I will double weft it as if I've cut it, but I won't cut it. It's just when I turn it, I'm actually going to put the needle through the weft again, sew that down twice, and then start going around the exact same way I'm doing it. So now just watch because it's easier to watch than listen to me explain. And then yeah, when there's something else I need to say, I will catch you up. So enjoy the video so far. So also you guys can notice at the beginning I was sewing sort of like under the track, then over the track, and now under the track again. So you guys can see what I'm doing. There's no actually correct way whether you need to sew under the track or over the track when you're sewing. It's just whichever way feels comfortable. So I just wanted to show you guys both ways of sewing it. It literally doesn't make a difference. Just sew however you feel comfortable as you're sewing the lace, and however it lays the flattest, that's what you're going to do. So in case you didn't notice or I didn't say, I'm using 3 bundles of hair, and as you guys can see, this is like old hair I dyed it because I wanted to test my dyeing skills on an old wig first before I bought some new hair and just ruined it. But as you can see, it turned out well if you saw the beginning of this video after I flat ironed it and everything. But yes, I went ahead and just used the old hair. It's just washed. I didn't flat iron it or anything. That's why it looks kind of rough. But yes, this is how I was sewing it. And this is the last track that's, well, not the last track. I think last track I'm going to show on camera. But as you guys can see, I've constantly been sewing in a sort of U shape. But once I reach like one track above this, I'm going to start going in like an oval kind of shape. You guys are going to see it when I show it on the screen. It's easier for me to understand. But for me, it makes the wig lay flatter if I sew like that instead of sewing it like round all the way, because it kind of forms like a circle and then you have that weird bump at the back of the closure. So here is where I was showing you. I start to sew like this and then just take it up all the way in that same formation, and then it starts forming like a C shape when I'm reaching closer to the closure. I had to go outside here because the lights went out, and if you live in Zambia or Africa, you probably know something about load shedding, where they take the power for like 4 hours. So yeah, I was committed, guys. I went outside to film this little part until it got dark. So as you can see, I'm using the same method with the T-pins as I'm sewing. It just really helps. You don't have to use them. Also, if you don't have T-pins, you can just use those little round pins that come. I can't remember what they're called, but it's usually like on a little card. There's a bunch of different colors of pins and they're round at the top. You can just use those. You don't have to use T-pins. So now I just jumped all the way to the top. You guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm just finishing off that last little part, and now I'm sewing the last track. And as you'll see, as I'm pinning it, I'm literally pinning it like on the edges of the closure. And as I sew it down, I'm going to sew the track to the edge of the closure so that there's literally no gap between the closure and the last track. And I was actually a little bit worried that my hair was not going to be enough to finish this, which is why I had like a little extra piece. And you see, if you have any extra hair at any point, you can always go and fill it in. But also, as you notice, here's a tip: I never like to put too much hair in the front. I like to put the most hair like at the back and towards the mid top of the hair, and then as I'm getting to the top, I start to put less hair, because in my experience, no one has so much hair at the top of their head and then less hair at the back. And I don't like my hair to be too thick. It just looks too unnatural. I like a full head of hair, but I like it to look natural. So this is just my method. I don't like to put too much hair on the top. So you guys will see once I lift the track, when I'm done with this side, there's like a little track with a space. So here you can see I'm using the same technique. But again, a little tip: when you're sewing the last track, I like to sew the cotton slightly closer together when I reach the closure, because again, I want it to lay very flat and I don't want any bumps on the hair when I'm combing my hair down from the closure. I don't have like 10 wigs because glue comes out. When I start making, you know, more of these videos, any companies want to send me hair, you know, send me some hair, guys. I want to do some reviews, you know, shameless little plug there. Then I'll probably start gluing wigs, because, you know, I wouldn't have time to be making like tons and tons of wigs by sewing. So if you guys would like a gluing tutorial when I start getting more wigs or more hair to make wigs, let me know. But here's our last little weft through the weft, our last little stitch through the weft. Let's go and put in that little last track. You see, this is where I left the gap, and then I just pinned my little hair there and filled the gap. And just ignore my dog, it was going crazy in the background. A friend came over. Okay, so now we're basically done with this little last track. Once I'm done with that, I let the closure down and just let you see what a mess the wig was looking before I went ahead and flat ironed it and plucked the closure and all that. And then what you want to do is flip the wig inside out and cut out that piece of wig cap under the closure, because you don't want it to be black under the closure. That means there's like no point of having the closure. You want to make sure you cut this out. It makes the wig look super good. but make sure you don't cut too close to the cotton where you sewed the closure down, or else it's gonna start coming out, and like that's just gonna ruin the whole wig. You have to make sure you do this well. So you guys can see there's still a little bit of cotton left on the edges before the stitches, and now we're done. Yes, so that's what it looks like when we're done. Closure down, everything's laying nice and flat. It looks really crazy, but you know, I went ahead and cut the lace off, plucked the closure, and then we ended up here. Okay, so this is the end of the video, and this is what the wig turned out like. I went ahead and flat ironed it. I also plucked the closure. So if you guys would like a tutorial also on how to pluck a closure and make it look natural, as you can see, it looks very natural. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, you guys are awesome. Make sure you comment a yellow heart emoji if you reach this part of the video in the description box below. I love to see you guys' comments and your interactions. If you forgot to subscribe in the beginning, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It is linked right down there, as well as the bell icon, which notifies you every single time I post. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!